to be Dovedale Drive.
I know on a beautiful spring night in James City County, your front porch and a glass of wine is very inviting. So taking the time to come out and talk about strategic planning for our lovely county is greatly appreciated and shows each of your commitment to keeping this a great county. We all know and love James City County. That's why we're here tonight. That's why we live here. When we went through the process of hiring our county administrator, we went and dug through a lot of aspects of the county with our recruits and eventual hire. And one of the biggest questions he had was, where's your strategic plan? What do you have in place? He looked on our website and couldn't find it because it didn't exist. So as part of our hiring agreement and upon full agreement of our Board of Supervisors, we undertook the task of creating a plan for our county. Our goal was to determine who we want to be when we grow up. How do we want to build out? What do we want our county to look like in the future? As Mr. Hill mentioned, one of the first steps was looking for a firm to join us and assist. Supervisor McGlennon, who's back there, and myself interviewed a number of firms and selected the one that you'll be chatting with tonight, Clarion and Associates, because of their experience in the planning process, their professionalism in their presentation and some of the work they had done in the past, and because of their focus on citizen input. And that was what was most important to us on the board and to our county administrator, is not just hearing from the five of us or a few core people. We wanted to hear from the community. We wanted to hear from as many James City County citizens as possible, because this is your strategic plan. This is your county. As Mr. Hill mentioned also, we are very early in this process. It is about a one-year process that is due to wrap up later this year, about some point in the fall. There are 5 phases, and we're only about 15% into phase 2 at this point. So we've been busy laying a foundation. We've been gathering facts. We've created 2 groups to assist with the process in building this foundation. You'll hear these a few times tonight, SPAG and TAG. TAG, that's the Technical Advisory Group. That is made up primarily of county staff to kind of talk about the technical aspects of the strategic plan, how the government works, and what we can implement. SPAG is the, I just went blank, Strategic Planning Advisory Group, and that is a group of key citizens and stakeholders that were recommended and selected to serve as representatives of the county. Folks who have a vested interest in the county, many folks who participate, some that don't. We look for a lot of folks that you don't see often and ask them to come in and become a part of the process. The SPAG group is very diverse, and that was something that was extremely important to us. It's a group that includes local business people, folks from finance and banking, folks from tourism, conservation. We wanted to make sure that the conservation groups were well represented. So there are 2 individuals on the board representing the board of directors from 2 different local land conservancies. The James River Association, board members on our SPAG. We have representatives from the schools, including our superintendent, representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, representatives from real estate, military, the Symphonia. We have people that were born here. We have people that are come heres. We've got people with kids in the schools. We've got grandparents. It's a wide variety of folks on our strategic plan advisory group that we've brought in to kind of start to lay some of the groundwork for the overall plan. Now today, now that this foundation is laid, we're ready to start building, and that's why we invited you here. It's time to start creating some of the building blocks of the strategic plan and the strategic planning process. It's important that we get broad-based input, and we hope today that all of you have come with your thinking caps on, ready to do some research, and ready to participate. A lot of your participation will be once we break out, and it'll be out at the boards. So please be very vocal, be very honest, and be very detailed. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you want your county to be. We're trying to develop the vision. We want the grand vision of who we want to be as James City County, and then we're going to dig that down into specific tasks and how to move forward. We want you to tell us what our role as a county government should be. What do you want us to do as a Board of Supervisors and a county government? What don't you want us to do? What do you want us to leave alone or stay out of? All of this type of input is very important to our process. So again, I appreciate you being out here, and please participate. This is your opportunity, and if you think of something afterwards, visit the strategic planning website, contact any of us as part of the SPAG, Board of Supervisors, County Administration. This is a long process. We're early in it, and all of the input we can get helps make it a better finished product. So with that, next up is Leanne King of Clarion and Associates. She will be taking us through a presentation and then giving you further instructions on how to wrap up the night. So thanks again. Thanks for coming out.
Afternoon, everyone. It is a gorgeous spring day, and I really appreciate you leaving your yards or wherever you were before to make it out with us here today. As Brian and Supervisor Onazik mentioned, this is the kickoff meeting for the public portion of the strategic planning process. So it's really important that you're involved today, but that you also stay involved over the course of this process. There are going to be other opportunities to hear from you over the coming months. Your input is really essential to making this a successful plan. You are going to ultimately own this plan and the way it's implemented, and it's going to determine the direction that the county goes in over the next 20 years plus. So it's important that you're here today and providing your input. So as Supervisor Onazik mentioned, my name is Leanne King. I'm with Clarion Associates. Our office is based in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I've got a few folks here with my team that I just wanted to identify. David Henning over here on the side is also in my Chapel Hill office, and Liz Friel, who many of you probably know with Plan Friel. She's a local folk that's on the team here working with us in this process. I also want to underscore something Brian said earlier about your county staff, and I'm not just saying this because I'm standing up here in front of you or standing in front of Brian, but truly, I mean from the bottom of my heart, that the county planning staff that we have dealt with during this process are by far the best in many ways. And one of the ways that really stands out in my mind is their willingness to be open-minded and to think outside the box and look at new ways to think about advancing and changing and improving things. And I want everyone to hear that, because I think, I get an opportunity to work with communities across the Southeast, and I think that's something that really stands out for staff here. So I wanted to mention that. So throughout this process, we've been talking a lot about what is the point? Why are we doing this? What is the strategic plan? For many people, you just came off the comprehensive planning process. How is the strategic plan different? And we feel like this quote kind of summarizes it well. So this is the first part of the quote. James City County has no shortage of great ideas to implement. If those of you that have looked around the boards in the room, there's one that shows all of the different plans that you've developed over recent history. There's a lot of great ideas out there. What we really think is, important and critical about this strategic plan is that the county needs a guide that identifies the community's priorities. We need a document that sets the priorities for the community for implementation, and a strategy for executing those actions. Who's going to do it? When are they going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? That's really what this strategic plan, in a nutshell, is being set out to do. 2035 strategic plan. So about the process and the plan. So you might see JCC Strategy 2035 if you've looked at the project website. That's the title of the website. That's really the planning process for developing the plan. This is the first ever strategic planning effort you've ever undertaken. It's really the process for identifying the priorities. One of the things we're doing as part of this effort is to look at the inventory of ideas out there, both those that are adopted in adopted plans and studies, as well as new ideas such as those that we'll hear from you tonight and that we've heard from SPAG and TAG in previous meetings. And really this is your opportunity to have a stake in the future of the community and tell us what you think needs to happen or not happen. for the 2035 strategic plan is the plan. That is the ultimate, product of this process. It's the plan for James City County government. That's a really important piece. Ultimately, the county's government is going to be implementing this. They may be doing pieces, some in partnership with other organizations, but ultimately, this plan sets the course for county government action and investment. It's really a way to prioritize and implement the strategies that are laid out in other documents and plans. And to guide county work and investments over the next 20 years. And we're breaking it out into kind of short, medium, and long-term categories. So the role of the strategic plan, this is just kind of a guide to help you understand how this plan will fit in with other plans that you have out there and other processes that you have for making decisions within the community. So first of all, James City County has current plans and policy direction. Your comprehensive plan that was just adopted is one of those, and that is a core foundational piece of this planning process, is looking at what's already out there, looking at the direction the community has already set through those plans. And then we get the community input from this. There might be some new ideas or some new opportunities or some new challenges that need to be addressed that we can incorporate through this process. We're also taking a look at the economic and fiscal opportunities and challenges that the county faces not only today but on in the future. We'll talk a little bit more about the boards here in a moment, but some of that information is on the purple boards here. We've got that summarized and in a report on the project website. And again, ultimately, the 2035 strategic plan is going to set out the vision and values for the community, and the structure has it so that we will set out some core goals and actions. We're going to be talking about goals and implementation strategies today. We're not yet to the actions phase. That's coming in future months. The plan will also have a detailed implementation plan. I was mentioning earlier, we need to know who's going to do it, when they're going to do it, how we're going to pay for them doing it if there's a cost associated with it. And metrics for evaluation. Any good plan has a way to reflect back and say, hey, are we achieving what we set out to do? How are we going to evaluate that plan over time to make sure we are doing that? And maybe, we might need to change course or put more resources towards an area if we're not achieving what we want to. So we need to have that kind of look back, that reflection on a regular basis. Excuse me, let me jump back there. So this plan is really going to help guide the capital improvement planning and annual budgeting process. You guys are just kind of starting out on that right now. It's that time of year. And this plan, a large part of its role is really to help with that process, to help guide what are the big capital projects we're talking about? What are the preventative maintenance projects we're talking about? Are there new services that we're wanting to be providing? Anything that involves the budget and capital improvements planning, needs to be incorporated into the strategic plan. It also will help guide work plans for county departments. What their priorities should be your priorities, which should be identified within the strategic plan. Any good plan is also updated on a regular basis, and we're suggesting here, we haven't gone through this full process, this is more kind of at the end, but a 5-year turnaround on a strategic plan is probably a good time frame. Usually you do 10 years on a comprehensive plan. That's a little bit longer trajectory. 5 years is probably good for a strategic plan. And it's also an opportunity to think about not just the comprehensive plan, but other plans as you're being adopted. These plans need to be kind of reinforcing each other and reflecting the guidance that are provided within them. The strategic planning process, I'm not going to read all of these details here. There's another example of this on the green board in the back. But this basically, and this is also on the project website, this graphic just highlights the 5 phases of work. So this is a year-long process that the county has undertaken. We started back in October 2015, and we're shooting for completion and adoption of this plan in October 2016. So 5 phases of work. As you can kind of see here, if you can see my little dot here, we're about right here. So again, we're not very far through the process. And this gives you a better sense of that. So phase 1, setting directions, was really where we got in. We met with the SPAG and the TAG, as we like to call them, the Strategic Planning Advisory Group and Technical Advisory Group, and staff, and really learned about the community and what all of your planning direction was on the ground, and also identified themes, met with stakeholders, and learned more about what are kind of the driving forces, what are the planning influences that we need to be factoring into this planning effort. And right now we're working on synthesizing and really focusing efforts, really starting to say, okay, what are the goals that are going to be driving the actions coming coming out of this plan. So that's what we're looking at right now. We have drafts of that material today that we're going to be kind of exploring and testing with you. But a lot more left to go in terms of development of this plan. There we are in the process. Again, if you've not been to the website, I encourage you to go there. There's a place where you can plug in your name and email address, and you'll get weekly emails apprising you of what's going on with the process so that you can kind of follow along. It's a nice kind of quick reminder that comes to you so you don't have to remember to go to the website. The Foundations report, which is the report from the Phase 1 work, is on there for those of you that are interested. We also have interim products from Phase 2, so you can see kind of the progress and the sausage making, if you will, of the thought process behind all of this work as we move along. Roles and responsibilities, and Supervisor Honorzik talked about the technical advisory group, the TAG, and the SPAG. So lots of different folks involved here. Of course, you all are very critically important. You're going to own this plan and how it's implemented. The Board of Supervisors is they're ultimately the adopters of this plan, and they're going to oversee its implementation. They're also being briefed at the end of each phase of work so that they're kind of in tune with what's going on and the direction it's heading, and we're checking in with them to make sure they're comfortable with it. The Strategic Planning Advisory Group is the advisory board for this planning process, so they really help us, the consultants and the staff, make sure that we're kind of on track and we're thinking about all of the different things that we need to be thinking about. The Technical Advisory Group, again, is county staff, and they're the folks who are ultimately going to be doing a lot of the work that we're setting out in this plan, and they're the folks on the ground who understand how things do work and how much they do cost. So that they're very helpful from kind of that technical standpoint. We've also been interviewing community stakeholders. And then down here at the bottom, we've got the project team, the formal project team that are managing, both consultant and staff that are managing the process. So, and we're here to assist. So you've got both staff here today. You also have members of the Strategic Plan Advisory Group and the project team, and you'll see them with these colored name badges. You'll notice all yours are kind of white on the top. If you wouldn't mind, folks from SPAG, Strategic Plan Advisory Group, if you could just kind of raise your hand. There are a couple members here from that group. And then the Technical Advisory Group, we've got a number of volunteers here as well. So anyway, those are the folks. If you have questions, please feel free to come talk to me or anyone on our team, but there are also others here that have been involved in this process, met several times, have been giving us lots of comments on draft products, so they can help you understand and answer your questions as well. So what are we doing here? What are we going to accomplish today? So we want to share the strategy for developing the plan. We've done some of that, and the progress made on the plan, and that's a lot what's on the boards. We want to collect your impressions and opinions on draft documents, and I'm hoping that each of you, when you walked in, got a copy of this comment form at the registration table. That's one way we can collect your comments. There are some other ways as well. We're going to do a little polling exercise here in a minute. Hopefully everybody's got a keypad in their hand. And then again, another opportunity to talk with planning leadership, SPAG, TAG, and the Board of Supervisor members. So the information from today, we are going to be taking it and we're going to be documenting it as you gave it to us. We'll be putting that up on the project website. So after, in about a month or so, you can probably go up and find your exact comment that you put on a board. We're going to be analyzing it to identify what are the themes coming out of this. What are the really, what are, some of the key themes that we're seeing and some of the specific actions that we should be considering to include in the strategic plan. And then we're going to use that information to make adjustments to the goals and implementation strategies that we have in the current draft of the Phase 2 report. And we'll be working with SPAG and the Board of Supervisors and TAG to make sure that they are, that we're all in unison in terms of how that information is getting folded in. But you can, again, see how all this moves forward and evolves over time through the products on the project website. So just real quick to help you orient, there's some boards in the back, the green and the blue balloons you'll see back here. These are some of the kind of basic information about the process and the building blocks of the plan. What's the information that we're using to help build this plan? The purple boards, over here you see the purple balloons. That is the kind of economic and fiscal analysis that we did at the start of this process, looking at both historical data and also future information and some of the opportunities and challenges from an economic and fiscal perspective. Over here, you see the orange balloons. These are where we start framing up what are the issues that we're talking about including or addressing, I should say, in the strategic plan. And then the second board here talks about the vision and values for that are really going to help guide development of the plan and getting your input and reactions to that vision statement. Actually, there's 2 vision statements for you to take a look at. The middle table, green table over here, has the organization for the plan. So we wanted to share with you how we're thinking about organizing it. And really it's kind of set out in 5 main themes: invest, protect, serve, collaborate, and manage. That's what the county does on a daily basis. And so that's how we're suggesting that we structure this document. We also set out the 7 draft strategic plan goals and give you an opportunity to do some board exercises. Again, comment on your comment form if you want to tell us if you think those are the right goals or if they need to be amended or tweaked or goals added. That's one way to get your input. Whoops. And then the final set of boards over here in the corner focus on the implementation strategies. Now there are 40 of them, and we're wanting to hear from you. What do you think are the top 5 that really need to be implemented on the county? What should be the priorities for implementation? The county has a finite amount of resources and folks to do work. We cannot do everything. Definitely can't do everything in the short or midterm. So what should the priorities be? So that's where we want to get your input on that. Just so you know, several of the stations here where we have kind of interaction with you and we want to get your input, there are pieces of paper on the table. If a lot of folks kind of come over here and it's hard to see what's on the board, there's some sheets that describe the information on the board that you can take back and sit in a chair, or one of the back tables and fill out your comment form if that's more comfortable for you. If you would please return the form for the next group, we're trying to kind of limit paper copies and that sort of thing. That would be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking so much and we're going to do hopefully a fun exercise, learn a little bit about who's in the room, and also your thoughts on the draft plan goals. And these are kind of initial impressions. So this is not, don't get too worried about what we're talking about here. Okay, so we probably have some history buffs in the room given the fact where we are today. So the first question here, and again, this is where your keypads come out. Many of you might have done this before. Basically, you're going to read the question, and there are A, B, C, D, E responses here. You want to press the button that corresponds to the answer that you think is most appropriate. So the question here is, what happened on this day in history? So March 30th in history. Did the USA agree to purchase Alaska from Russia? Did Ponce de Leon discover Florida? The Pony Express debuts, Microsoft was founded, or something else? And this is just a warm-up to make sure everybody knows how to use a keypad. Everybody made their choice? So we agreed to purchase Alaska from Russia. March 30th, I think it was 1876 was the date. All right. Okay. How long have you lived in James City County? 0 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 11 to 20, 21 plus, or I don't live in James City County? All right. Okay, so it looks like we've got a little more than 50% have been here 11 years or longer. A few of you actually aren't in James City County. But we do have a pretty good distribution of other folks that have been here maybe a shorter period of time. All right, how old are you? This is anonymous, so you can be perfectly honest. Just to get an idea of who's in the room. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay. So we got about, 72%, if I can do the math right, about 51 years or older. We do have a few 0 to 19-year-olds. That's kind of unusual for public meetings, so that's good. I don't know where you are out there, but I'm not seeing you, but remember, it's anonymous. I said to be truthful. Okay. All right. What's the primary reason that you live in James City County? What brings you here? Do you have a job here? You think the quality of life is really superb. You've got family that brought you here. Maybe you own a business here. You think the schools are top-notch. You wanted your children to go to them. You grew up here, it's home, or some other reason, or you don't live here in James City County. And it might be that there are several of these that fit, but maybe the one that you just think is top. Again, this is just kind of first impressions. Quality of life is superb. So folks in the room think this is a great place to live, and that's why you're here. All right, why did you come to this meeting? Do you want to help develop the plan for county action? Are you curious about the planning effort and kind of wanted to understand what's going on? You were asked by someone to come that you wanted to make happy. You have a particular project or action that you want to support and you want to make sure it gets in the plan. Or does this not describe, none of these describe why you're here today? Okay. So probably a combination of wanting to help, but also just being curious about what the process is and what are we doing in the strategic planning process. Well, hopefully by the end of today, when you leave, you will have learned a lot more about what's going on and where this is heading and provided some input on the direction it's taking and what you think about that. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the draft plan goals, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw those up here. These are the goal, what I call headers. They're not the full goal statements. There's more words associated than just this, which are the full words are over on the board over here. But just to kind of get an initial flavor, again, just an initial flavor, we want to talk about, what you think in terms of the priorities of this list, and is this the right list? So I'll read them off to you. Sustainable long-term water supply is the first one. Modern infrastructure, facilities, and technology systems is 2. Expanding and diversifying the local economy is 3. 4 is protected community character and an enhanced built environment. 5 is exceptional public services. 6 is exemplary lifelong learning opportunities. 7 is fiscally efficient government. And again, the goals are also provided on the station over here, and we want to get input on each of the individual goals and how much you support each of them individually. But here we're going to go through a little priority polling to see what you think in terms of how they kind of rank in comparison to each other. Okay, so the first question is, which of these goals do you think should be the county's highest priority for implementation? And this is that same list of goals: sustainable long-term water supply, modern infrastructure, facilities, technology systems, on down. The only addition here is we put some other goal in case a goal you want to support is not listed here. So what do you think the highest priority for implementation should be? Everybody picked. Looks like you guys know, guys and gals know what you want. Okay, so looks like 24% we get sustainable long-term water supply, obviously a very critical issue to be addressing in the community. Then kind of a mix here between fiscally efficient government, expanding and diversifying the economy, protecting community character, and modern infrastructure. Okay, so now we're going to ask same question, but we're going to say, what's the second highest priority? If we take care of that first one, then what's the second highest priority for you? Same list and also some other goal at the bottom, if there's something else that's not on here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so somewhat similar reactions. Fiscally efficient government probably got a little bit less on there. We also got some other goal, but the water supply economy is still up there, as well as community character and infrastructure. Okay, and so now kind of reverse of that question, which of these goals do you think should be the lowest priority for the county? Same list and some other goal at the bottom. What do you think should be the lowest? And really what we're trying to do here is identify, is there one of these that's particularly less important to be having as a priority in comparison to the others? exemplary lifelong learning opportunities. And this is, I want to stop here for just a moment because I think this is very interesting. We've had a lot of discussions with both the Board of Supervisors and SPAG and TAG about the county's role when it comes to education and how the county plays a major role as a funder, particularly of public education. But the county does not set curriculum, it doesn't develop school policy, it doesn't build the actual structures. So what this relationship is between the county government's role and education is a really important one that we're working through this process to identify. What's that going to be? And it could be that it's more about collaboration to support, so more on that. Okay, and our last question here, does this draft goals list, again this is draft, working draft, capture all the priorities you think are critical for the county to be addressing in the strategic plan? We got a couple different options here. So yes, you think this list looks about right. And then B, C, and D, B is maybe. I need to read a little bit more about the goals, but we might be on target. C, D, and E are no, this list isn't right. You either, in C, want something to be deleted, D, wants a goal to be added, E, something needs to be adjusted, F is some combination of C, D, and E, G, you're just not sure, you want to look a little bit more, or some other answer. If we don't put some other answer, someone will always say, but you didn't put mine, so some other answer. And again, don't sweat this too much because you're going to get an opportunity to provide a lot more in-depth input on each of the goals and the implementation strategies in just a moment. So let's take a look. Okay, so that makes me feel pretty good. About a third of you think we're about on track. Well, actually more like maybe a little over 50% of you think we're about on track. You maybe need to take a closer look at it, but it sounds about right. There might be some goals that need to be added to this list that we didn't include. Or actually 20% say some combination of C, D, or E. Okay, so keep this in mind, and I hope this has kind of helped kind of wet your whistle a little bit for when you go and take a look at the goals and provide some feedback on that. That wraps up the presentation portion of today. So at this point, what I'm going to ask you to do is just, take your time. This is self-paced, self-selected. You can look at whatever you want or whatever you don't want to look at. We encourage you to participate on the boards over here to fill out the comment forms. We've got little blue bins both in our room and outside before you leave the building. You can drop your comment form off. Please, 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 we really want your feedback so that we know what to incorporate in this plan. So thank you so much, and I'll let you go give your input. So this board shares with the public what the issues are that are being addressed up to this point in the planning process and offers them an opportunity to identify some other issues that they might want us to be exploring for inclusion in the strategic plan. There are also some comments here about services for seniors and providing seniors with the facilities and services they need over the future. There's also discussion here about affordable housing, workforce housing, and dealing with segments of the population that maybe struggle financially and might need some additional assistance. So this board talks about different vision statements that can be incorporated into the strategic plan, giving people some options for what they might want to see and help guide the rest of the development of the plan. And people voted with dots, and what we learned was that people liked option 1 a little bit more than they did option 2. Again, we're going to look at the comment forms too and see what the additional feedback is on that. And we also received a couple of ideas about how we can kind of bolster these vision statements and make them a little bit more robust. This board here is called Organizing Our Priorities, and it sets out a draft structure for the strategic plan and really helps think through how we're going to assemble the goals and action strategies. So invest, protect, serve, collaborate, and also manage the government finances. What we learned from the input on this board, which we didn't receive a lot of, and I think through that what we learned is that people are in support of this structure. So I think we've got folks telling us that they think this is a good way to move in terms of organizing the actual document. A few comments here about making sure that community character is enhanced, not necessarily just protected. Also a comment here about new revenue streams and the idea that we should be looking at new methods for enhancing revenue sources to pay for the different services and facilities that are being set out in the plan. This board tells us about the draft strategic plan goals that we've been working over the last several months to develop, and they'll continue to evolve. We have here 7 draft goals, and participants at the meeting today were given the opportunity to vote with these sticky dots whether they supported this goal, might support this goal, maybe with some adjustments, or they didn't support this goal. And I think what we see here is there's pretty good support for the goals that have been developed, maybe some opportunity to be tweaking some of these goals. The one caveat to that, interestingly enough, is this goal 6, exemplary lifelong learning opportunities. And I think that really speaks to this idea of, what is the county's role in terms of providing education. It's the major funder, the funder of public education system within the community, K through 12. But beyond that, what is really the county's role? So I think that's something that we're going to continue to explore in this process. These 2 boards ask the question, what do you think about the draft implementation strategies, and what are your top 5 implementation strategies? Again, these are working drafts. This is a first opportunity for the public to kind of weigh in on what they think is important. Using that same structure, invest, protect, serve, collaborate, manage, we've identified 40 different action strategies that could be incorporated into the plan. And for each of those strategies, we highlight in orange dots here which goal, which draft strategic plan goal they are associated with. And so some of these goals, some of these strategies implement multiple goals. Some maybe only 1 or 2. The one that got the most dots was exploring options to determine the final course for long-term water supply strategy. So what is the long-term water supply strategy is something that's really critical on people's minds. There's also a lot of support for development of a fiscal impact model that would give the county a tool to be evaluating both the revenue and cost side of new capital improvements as well as new developments. Establishing a workforce housing task force to look at the challenges to the local workforce in terms of finding affordable housing received a fair amount of support. A couple others here, update mandatory tree protection standards and looking at natural landscaping policies for the county. Collaborating with local housing partner organizations to expand housing opportunities. Developing transportation plans to really kind of invest in the community and open the community up for economic development in strategic areas. So those are some of the highlights from this exercise.